The air in the station smelled like burning metal and something sweet that made Deho's nose wrinkle. He walked through the crowded market, trying not to bump into the many different aliens that filled the narrow corridors. Some had too many arms. Some had scales. Some looked like they were made of smoke. This was the outer reaches where human laws didn't matter and anything could be bought or sold. Deho was a merchant captain. His ship, the Bright Horizon, carried goods between human colonies and alien settlements. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was honest. Most of the time. He was here to trade medical supplies for rare minerals. But as he walked toward the trading district, he heard sounds that made him stop. Voices were shouting in languages he didn't understand. A crowd had gathered around a raised platform. Deho pushed through the crowd, his hand instinctively moving to the small weapon on his belt. What he saw made his blood run cold. It was a slave auction. Creatures stood on the platform in chains. Some looked terrified. Some looked broken, their eyes empty. Alien traders shouted prices while buyers examined the slaves like they were furniture. Deho had heard that slavery still existed in the outer reaches, but seeing it was different. His grandfather had told him stories about Earth's dark past, about people treating other people as property. Deho had promised himself he would never ignore injustice, no matter where he found it. Then he saw her. She stood at the back of the platform, and she was almost human. Almost, but not quite. Her skin was pale lavender, smooth like silk. Her hair was silver and fell straight down her back. She was tall and slim, wearing simple gray clothing. Around her neck was a metal band that gleamed under the station's harsh lights. It looked heavy, with strange symbols carved into it. Unlike the other slaves, she wasn't crying or struggling. She stood very still, her eyes scanning the crowd. When her gaze passed over Deho, he felt something strange, like a cold breeze across his thoughts. The auctioneer, a blob-like creature with multiple mouths, began speaking about her. Deho's translator earpiece buzzed and converted the words to Korean. This one is rare. From the far systems, very obedient, very useful. The collar keeps her calm. Who will start the bidding? Deho didn't think. He raised his hand. The bidding went fast. Other buyers seemed interested at first, but when Deho kept raising his offers, they backed away. The alien sellers kept glancing at each other nervously. One of them, a reptilian creature with yellow eyes, kept staring at Deho like it was trying to memorize his face. Finally, Deho won. He paid almost all his trading capital, money that was supposed to buy the minerals his clients wanted. His crew would be angry. His company would be furious. But he couldn't leave her there. The transaction was quick. Too quick. The slavers seemed eager to finish and leave. They pushed the woman toward Deho and hurried away before he could ask questions. The metal collar around her neck had a small display that flickered with alien writing. "Can you understand me?" Deho asked, pointing to his translator. The woman tilted her head. Her eyes were strange colors shifting between purple and silver. She spoke and the translator crackled. "Understand? Yes. You bought me?" Her voice was soft, but had an odd quality, like music played slightly off-key. "I'm setting you free," Deho said. "I don't believe in slavery. You're not property. Come with me to my ship. We'll get you somewhere safe." The woman blinked slowly. Something like confusion crossed her face. "Free?" "Yes. Free. Come on." Deho led her through the station. She walked beside him silently, her movements strangely graceful. People moved out of her way without seeming to realize they were doing it. The Bright Horizon was docked in Bay 7. It wasn't a large ship, just a medium-sized cargo vessel with room for a crew of 12. Deho's people were good at their jobs and mostly minded their own business. When he brought the woman aboard, his engineer Minho was the first to see her. Minho's eyes went wide. "Captain, what did you do?" "I saved someone," Deho said firmly. What's your name?" The woman spoke a word that sounded like wind chimes. The translator struggled with it and finally said, "Ariel." "Ariel," Deho repeated. "She needs our help." Minho opened his mouth to argue, but Deho gave him a look that meant the discussion was over. Minho sighed and went back to his work. Deho took Ariel to one of the small passenger cabins. It had a bed, a small bathroom, and a window that showed the stars outside. She stood in the center of the room, looking around with interest. "You can rest here," Deho said. "We'll leave this station soon and head toward human space. From there, we can figure out where you want to go." Ariel touched the collar around her neck. "This," she said. "It is. Uncomfortable." Deho looked at the metal band. Up close, he could see it was locked with some kind of electronic mechanism. It looked cruel, tight against her skin. "I'll remove it," he said. "Hold still." He pulled out his tools and examined the lock. It was complex, but not impossible. As he worked, Ariel suddenly became agitated. She spoke rapidly in her own language, words the translator couldn't process. It just buzzed uselessly. "It's okay," Deho said gently. "I know you're scared. I know you've been through terrible things. But you're safe now. This collar is a symbol of your slavery. Let me take it off." The lock clicked open. Deho carefully removed the heavy metal band from Ariel's neck. There were marks on her skin where it had rested, pale lines against the lavender. Ariel touched her bare neck. She was completely still for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was a beautiful smile, but something about it made Deho's stomach tighten. It was too wide, too knowing, like she had just heard the punchline to a joke that only she understood. "Thank you," Ariel said, and her voice was different now, smoother, more confident. "You are very kind." "You're welcome," Deho said, though he suddenly felt uncertain. "Rest now. I'll bring you some food later." He left the cabin carrying the collar with him. As the door closed, he looked back through the small window. Ariel stood in the same spot, still smiling, staring at nothing. Deho shook off the strange feeling and headed to the bridge. He had a ship to run and a lot of explaining to do to his crew about why they were now broke and carrying a passenger. Behind him, in the cabin, Ariel flexed her fingers slowly. Energy crackled between them, invisible to human eyes. She closed her eyes and reached out with senses that had been dampened for so long. The ship spread out in her mind like a map made of light. She could feel every person aboard, their thoughts like candles in the dark. So simple, so fragile, so delicious. She laughed softly, a sound like breaking glass, and began to plan. 3 days passed since they left the station. The bright horizon traveled through hyperspace, that strange realm where normal physics didn't apply and ships could cross vast distances in hours instead of years. The ship hummed with its usual rhythms, but Deho felt like something was off. It started with small things. Ariel recovered from her ordeal remarkably fast. Too fast. The morning after they left the station, Deho found her in the ship's common area, examining their food processor with intense focus. When he asked if she needed help, she smiled and said she was just curious about how it worked. By afternoon, she had figured it out completely. She made herself a meal that looked better than anything Deho had seen come out of that machine in 5 years. Minho noticed it too. He found Ariel in the engine room on the second day, standing near the main power core. She shouldn't have been able to get past the locked door, but there she was, studying the equipment like she could see through the metal casings to the components inside. "How did you get in here?" Minho demanded. "The door was open," Ariel said calmly. "That door is never open." "It was for me." She smiled that too wide smile. "Your engines are beautiful. So much power flowing through such simple systems. Humans are clever." Minho reported it to Deho, his voice worried. "Captain, there's something wrong with her. She understands our technology. She shouldn't be able to understand any of it." "Maybe your people have similar ships," Deho suggested, but even he didn't sound convinced. "Maybe," Minho said. "Or maybe we made a mistake bringing her aboard." The medical officer, Ji-won, had her own concerns. She had asked Ariel to come to the medical bay for a basic health check. Nothing invasive, just a simple scan to make sure she was healthy after being held as a slave. Ariel agreed pleasantly and stood still while the scanner passed over her body. When the results came back, Ji-won had to run the scan 3 more times because she thought the machine was broken. "Captain, you need to see this," Ji-won said, calling Dae-ho to the medical bay. She showed him the scanner readout. It looked like static, colored lights and numbers that didn't make sense. "What am I looking at?" Dae-ho asked. "That's the problem. I don't know." Ji-won pulled up comparison charts. "This is a human scan. This is a Valorian scan. This is a Karathi scan. All different species, but you can see patterns. Brain here, heart here, lungs, digestive system. They all make sense." She pulled up Ariel's scan again. "This is her. Her cellular structure is incredibly dense. Her cells are packed so tight they should collapse on themselves. Her neural pathways are everywhere, not just in her brain. Her whole body is like one big nervous system. And these," she pointed to bright spots scattered throughout the scan, "these energy signatures. The scanner can't identify what they are. They shouldn't exist." Dae-ho stared at the incomprehensible readout. "Is she dangerous?" "I don't know," Ji-won admitted. "The scanner says she's alive and healthy. Beyond that, I have no idea what she is." That night, Dae-ho couldn't sleep. He went to the bridge where Sora, his security officer, was on watch. Sora was a serious woman who rarely smiled. She had been a soldier before joining his crew, and she still carried herself like one. "Can't sleep, Captain?" Sora asked. "Too much on my mind." "The woman?" "Ariel, yes," Sora nodded slowly. "She makes me nervous. She moves too quietly. I'm trained to hear people approaching, but twice now she's appeared right next to me without making a sound. It's not natural. Maybe she's just naturally quiet. Maybe." Sora didn't look convinced. "Or maybe you freed something that wasn't meant to be freed." Dae-ho wanted to argue, but he couldn't. The doubt was growing in his mind too. Ariel seemed to be everywhere on the ship. She learned Korean with impossible speed. By the 3rd day, she spoke it perfectly with barely any accent. She joined them for meals, telling stories about her homeworld. She called it Velthera. She described it as a beautiful place with purple skies and silver forests. She talked about cities that grew like plants and music that could be seen as well as heard. Her stories were enchanting, but they were also vague. When Dae-ho asked specific questions about locations or technology or politics, Ariel would change the subject with such skill that he wouldn't realize she had done it until later. She never slept. Dae-ho confirmed this with Sora, who monitored the ship's internal cameras. Every night Ariel would lie in her bed for exactly 1 hour. Then she would get up and wander the ship, touching things, studying systems, standing in front of windows and staring at the stars. One night, Minho was working late in the engine room. He heard a sound and turned to find Ariel standing behind him. He hadn't heard her enter. "You startled me," he said, putting a hand to his chest. "I apologize," Ariel said. "I couldn't sleep." "You never sleep." "True." She moved closer, her strange eyes reflecting the engine lights. "You have such beautiful thoughts, Minho. I can see them dancing around you like little lights. Thoughts about making things work, about fixing broken systems, about creating order from chaos." Minho backed away. "What are you talking about?" "Your mind. It's so open, so eager to share." She reached out one hand toward him. "May I?" "May you what?" Ariel didn't answer. She touched his forehead gently with one finger. Everything went white. When Minho came back to awareness, he was sitting on the floor. His head felt like someone had taken it apart and put it back together wrong. Ariel was crouched in front of him, looking concerned. "Are you okay?" she asked. "You fainted. What happened?" "You were working too hard. You need rest." She helped him to his feet with surprising strength. "Go to your cabin, sleep." Minho nodded slowly. That sounded right. He was tired. He needed sleep. He left the engine room in a daze. Ariel watched him go, then turned back to the engines. She now understood exactly how they worked. Every detail. Every function. She had pulled the knowledge directly from Minho's mind, like picking fruit from a tree. It had been so easy. Too easy, really. These humans had no mental defenses at all. They didn't even know such things existed. She felt a small pang of something. Guilt? Regret? She examined the emotion curiously. She hadn't felt guilty about anything in a very long time. Maybe the limiter had suppressed more than just her power. Maybe it had suppressed parts of her personality too. The thought troubled her, but only for a moment. Then she pushed it away and continued exploring. The next morning, Dae-ho found Minho in the common area, holding his head and drinking something hot. "Are you sick?" Dae-ho asked. "I don't know. I can't remember last night very well. I was working and then nothing. Then I woke up in my bed. Minho looked up at Daiho with worried eyes. Captain, I think something happened. Something with Ariel? What do you mean? I mean, I think she did something to me. Something to my head. Before Daiho could respond, Ariel entered the common area. She looked fresh and energetic, her silver hair perfectly smooth. Good morning, she said brightly. Minho, are you feeling better? Minho stared at her. What did you do to me? I helped you to your cabin when you fainted. You were working too hard. I don't faint. Everyone can faint under the right circumstances. Ariel poured herself a drink. The human body is resilient but not invincible. You should be more careful. She smiled at them both, then left the room. Minho turned to Daiho. See? Something's wrong. Something's very wrong. Daiho wanted to dismiss it. He wanted to believe he had done the right thing by rescuing Ariel. But the evidence was piling up. She wasn't what she seemed. She wasn't a simple slave who needed rescue. She was something else entirely. And whatever she was, Daiho had freed her from the one thing that had been controlling her. The collar sat in his cabin, locked away in a drawer. Sometimes late at night, Daiho would take it out and study it. The symbols carved into it seemed to shift when he wasn't looking directly at them. The metal was warm to the touch, like it was still alive. He didn't know what he had done, but deep in his gut, in that place where instinct lived, he knew he had made a terrible mistake. He just didn't know how terrible yet. The bright horizon docked at Outpost Kepler, a small human station on the edge of controlled space. It was one of those places where travelers stopped to refuel, resupply, and trade information. The station was old and patched together from parts of a dozen different ships, but it was home to 5,000 people who made their living on the frontier. Daiho needed supplies and wanted to talk to someone about Ariel, someone who might know what she really was. He left Sora in charge of the ship with strict instructions. Watch Ariel, don't let her leave the ship. Don't let her access any critical systems. And if she tries, Sora asked, her hand resting on her weapon, stop her, but be careful. We don't know what she's capable of. Daiho took Minho with him to the station. Minho was still shaken from his encounter with Ariel, and Daiho thought getting him off the ship for a few hours might help. The station's main corridor was crowded with people. Humans mostly, but also a few friendly alien species that had good relations with Earth. Daiho headed straight for the information district, where researchers and scholars sold their knowledge to travelers. He found what he was looking for in a small shop crammed with data tablets and old books. The sign outside read, Hyunjin's Xenological Studies. Inside, surrounded by stacks of papers and glowing screens, sat an elderly man with white hair and sharp eyes behind thick glasses. Can I help you? Hyunjin asked without looking up from his work. I hope so. I need information about an alien species. That's what I do. Which species? I don't know the name, but I can describe her. Daiho pulled out his tablet and showed Hyunjin a picture he had taken of Ariel. Pale lavender skin, silver hair, very humanoid. She was wearing this collar. He showed another picture of the metal band. Hyunjin looked at the first image and barely reacted. When he saw the collar, his face went completely pale. He stood up so fast his chair fell over. Where did you get this picture? I rescued her from slavers. The collar was... Tell me you didn't remove the collar. Hyunjin grabbed Daiho's arm with surprising strength. Please tell me the collar is still on her. Daiho's blood ran cold. I removed it. Why? What is it? Hyunjin stumbled backward and sat down heavily. He looked like he might be sick. Oh no. What? What is she? That's not a slave collar. Hyunjin pulled up files on his computer with shaking hands. That's a limiter, a power restrictor. And if you removed it... He looked at Daiho with fear in his eyes. Where is she now? On my ship. You need to leave. Right now. Get as far away from her as possible. I'm not abandoning my crew. Tell me what she is. Hyunjin took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. He pulled up an old file filled with ancient text and faded images. Her species doesn't have a name we can pronounce. Most people who know about them call them the Veil Walkers. They're old, very old. They were dominating this part of the galaxy before humans even invented the wheel. Dominating? What do you mean? I mean they ruled. They conquered. They enslaved entire species. Not for labor, but for entertainment. For food. Hyunjin showed Daiho images of ancient ruins. The Veil Walkers have abilities that seem like magic. They can read minds, control thoughts, move faster than eyes can follow. They can perceive things across vast distances, and they feed on certain types of energy. What kind of energy? Neural energy, life force, consciousness itself. Yunjin pulled up more files. There are stories about them. Terrible stories. Entire planets emptied of intelligent life. Populations turned into mindless shells. The Veil Walkers didn't see other species as people. They saw them as resources. Minho made a sound of horror. Captain, we need to go back now. Wait. Deho held up a hand. If they're so powerful, why aren't they still ruling? That's the mystery. About 10,000 years ago, they vanished. Just disappeared from known space. Some people think they destroyed themselves in civil wars. Others think they evolved beyond physical form. But before they left, a coalition of species developed those limiters. The only way to coexist with Veil Walkers peacefully. Hyunjin zoomed in on the collar in the image. The limiters suppress their abilities. With one on, a Veil Walker is only slightly more powerful than a normal humanoid. They can live normal lives, interact with other species safely. But without one, what happens without one? They become addicted to using their full power. It's like a drug. The more they use it, the more they need it. And their morality erodes. They stop seeing others as equals. They go back to being what they were 10,000 years ago. Hyunjin leaned forward. The limiters only work if the Veil Walker accepts them. They have to choose to be limited. If one removes their limiter willingly, it means they've decided to reject peace. She didn't remove it. Deho said quietly. I did. That's almost worse. If she was being transported with a limiter, it means she was caught after doing something terrible. She was being taken somewhere to be properly contained. The slavers, Minho said. They weren't really slavers, were they? Probably a transport crew. Moving her to a secure facility. Yunjin stood up. You need to get that limiter back on her immediately. Or you need to run. Those are your only options. How do I get it back on her? I don't know. Like I said, they have to accept it. You'd need to convince her or overpower her, and I don't think the second option is possible. Deho's communicator buzzed. It was Sora, and her voice was panicked. Captain, you need to get back here, now. What happened? It's Ariel, she's gone. And Minho. Wait, you have Minho with you? Yes, he's right here. There was a long pause. Then who did I just see in the engine room with his face? Deho and Minho ran. They pushed through crowds, ignoring the angry shouts of people they bumped into. Deho's mind raced. If Ariel could look like Minho, what else could she do? When they reached the ship, they found Sora in the corridor outside the engine room, her weapon drawn. She looked relieved when she saw them. She's in there, Sora whispered. I sealed the door, but I don't know how long that will hold her. Through the door's window, they could see Ariel. She looked like herself again, standing in the center of the engine room, surrounded by floating tools and parts. She wasn't touching them. They just floated around her like planets orbiting a star. She turned and looked directly at the window, at Deho. She smiled and waved. Then she spoke, and even through the sealed door they could hear her perfectly. Her voice was in their heads. Hello, Captain. Did you have a nice trip? Did you learn what I am? Deho's mouth was dry. He forced himself to speak. Why did you pretend to be Minho? I wanted to see if I could. It was easy. Your security systems are so simple. I could have walked off the ship any time I wanted. But I didn't. I stayed. Do you know why? Why? Because I'm curious about you. About humans. You're so strange, so determined, so fragile, but you keep trying anyway. It's fascinating. What do you want? Right now? I want to understand your ship better. After that, I want to go somewhere specific. A place I've been looking for. If you take me there, I promise not to hurt your crew. And if we don't, Ariel's smile faded. Then I'll take what I need from your minds and leave you as empty shells. It won't hurt much. You won't even be aware of what's happening. She tilted her head. But I'd rather not do that. Like I said, I'm curious about humans. I want to see what you'll do. Will you run? Will you fight? Will you try to reason with me? It's all so interesting. Minho grabbed Deho's arm. Captain, we should call for help. Contact the station authorities and tell them what? That we have a 10,000-year-old predator on our ship? Deho shook his head. By the time they organize a response, she'll have done whatever she wants. He looked at Ariel through the window. She looked back, waiting patiently. Where do you want to go? Deho asked. Ariel's smile returned. A dead world. in an uncharted system. I'll give you the coordinates. There's something there I need to find. What? That's my business. Will you take me, Captain? Or shall we do this the hard way? Deho looked at his crew. Sora had her weapon ready, but her hands were shaking. Minho looked terrified. They couldn't fight her. They couldn't run. All they could do was buy time and hope for an opportunity. I'll take you, Deho said. But you stay away from my crew. Deal. Ariel waved her hand and the engine room door opened. She walked out calmly, the floating tools falling to the floor behind her. I'll send the coordinates to your navigation system. Let's leave as soon as possible. I'm excited to see what we'll find. She walked past them, heading toward her cabin. As she passed Deho, she paused. You did a kind thing, Captain. Removing that collar. You thought you were saving me.
In a way, you were.
Just not in the way you intended. She continued walking. Try to get some sleep. It's a long journey. She disappeared around the corner. The coordinates Ariel provided led them away from all known space lanes. The navigation computer showed nothing but empty systems and dead stars. Whatever was out there, it wasn't on any official maps. Deho stood on the bridge staring at the star charts. Beside him, G1 spoke quietly. We could send a distress signal. Tell someone what's happening. She'd know the moment we tried, Deho said. I think she's listening to us all the time now. In our heads. Can she really do that? I don't know. But I'm not willing to test it. The crew had gathered for an emergency meeting in the cargo bay, the one place on the ship that didn't have monitoring equipment. They spoke in whispers even though they knew it probably didn't matter. We have to do something, Sora said. She had dark circles under her eyes. None of them had slept well since leaving the station. We can't just fly her wherever she wants. What choice do we have? Minho asked. She's stronger than us. Faster than us. She can read our minds. There has to be a way to fight her, Sora insisted. She's not invincible. Hyunjin said they can be killed. With enough firepower, Deho said. We have small arms and one cargo hold full of medical supplies. We're not equipped for combat. Then we find another way. Jiwon pulled out her medical tablet. I've been studying her biology, or what little I can understand of it. Those energy signatures I found, I think they're concentrated in specific areas. If we could disrupt them. How? I don't know yet. But I'm working on it. Strange things kept happening on the ship. Equipment would malfunction for no reason, then fix itself. Lights would flicker. The temperature would drop suddenly in random rooms in the dreams. Everyone was having nightmares. Dark, twisted dreams that felt too real. Deho dreamed of drowning in purple light. Minho dreamed of his mind being pulled apart like cotton candy. Sora dreamed of standing guard while her body moved on its own, unable to control her actions. When they woke, they felt exhausted, like they hadn't slept at all. Jiwan was the first to realize the truth. She's feeding on us, while we sleep, taking little bits of energy from our minds. Why? Deho asked. She could take everything. Why just little bits? Maybe she's playing with us. Or maybe, Jiwan looked troubled, maybe she's trying not to hurt us. Maybe there's still something human in her, something that remembers mercy. That's a dangerous assumption, Sora said. All our assumptions are dangerous now. Ariel continued to behave normally during the day. She joined them for meals, making pleasant conversation. She asked questions about Earth, about human culture, about their families. She seemed genuinely interested in their answers, but her eyes had changed. The shifting purple and silver was gone. Now they were solid black, like looking into empty space. On the fourth day of their journey, Minho disappeared. Deho noticed first when Minho didn't show up for his shift. He checked the engineer's cabin and found it empty. He checked the engine room, the common areas, the cargo holds, nothing. Sora, help me search, Deho ordered. Jiwon checked the medical bay. Maybe he's sick. They searched the ship systematically, but Minho was gone. It wasn't a big ship. There were only so many places to hide. Finally, Deho went to Ariel's cabin. He knocked on the door. Come in, her voice called. He entered to find Ariel sitting on her bed reading from a data tablet. She looked up with innocent eyes. Captain, what can I do for you? Where is Minho? I don't know. Is he missing? Don't play games. What did you do to him? Ariel set down the tablet slowly. I didn't do anything to him. But if you're so worried, I can help you look. She stood and walked past Deho into the corridor. Her movements were graceful, almost floating. She led him through the ship, moving with purpose toward the lower maintenance level. How do you know where to go? Taeho demanded. I can feel him. His thoughts are very loud right now. Confused, frightened. They found Minho in a storage bay that was rarely used. He was sitting on the floor, surrounded by scattered tools and parts. His eyes were unfocused, staring at nothing. Minho. Taeho rushed to him and shook his shoulders. Minho, can you hear me? Minho blinked slowly. Recognition returned to his eyes gradually, like someone waking from a deep sleep. Captain? Where am I? The storage bay. What happened? How did you get here? I don't remember. Minho touched his head. I was working on the engines and then nothing, blank. How long has it been? 3 hours. Minho looked at Ariel, who stood in the doorway watching them. Fear crossed his face. You did this to me again. I needed to understand something, Ariel said calmly. Your mind is very organized, Minho, full of patterns and structures. I wanted to see how deep those patterns go. You had no right. Rights are a human concept. They don't mean much to me. She tilted her head. But I'm sorry you're distressed. That wasn't my intention. Your intention? Minho stood up, angry now. What is your intention? What are you doing to us? Ariel was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer. I'm trying to decide something, whether your species is worth preserving or not. The words hit like a physical blow. Taeho found his voice. Preserving? What does that mean? It means I'm looking for others like me, other Veil Walkers who rejected the limiters. If I find them, if we gather enough of us, we could retake the galaxy. Return to what we were before, rulers instead of refugees, and humans? That depends. If humans prove interesting enough, useful enough, perhaps we'd keep you around, as pets, as servants, as food sources, she smiled. Or perhaps as friends. I haven't decided yet. We're not resources, Taeho said firmly. We're people. So were the species we ruled before. They thought they were people too. But when a lion looks at a rabbit, the rabbit's self-perception doesn't matter much. Sora appeared in the doorway, weapon drawn. Step away from them. Ariel looked at the weapon and laughed. It wasn't a cruel laugh, just genuinely amused. That won't hurt me, Sora, but I appreciate the courage. Humans are very good at being brave even when it's pointless. She moved, faster than eyes could follow, and suddenly she was standing next to Sora. She gently pushed the weapon aside. I could have killed all of you a dozen times by now. I haven't. That should tell you something. She looked at each of them in turn. I'm curious about you. About what makes humans special. Your species is young and weak, but you've spread across so many worlds. You adapt. You survive. You refuse to give up. She reached out and touched Sora's cheek. Sora flinched but didn't pull away. There's something in your minds, something I haven't seen in other species. A stubbornness, a refusal to accept fate, even now standing in front of a predator. You're not accepting your death. You're planning, scheming, hoping. Ariel smiled. It's beautiful, she stepped back. Bring Minho to the medical bay. Make sure he's healthy. We're only 2 days from our destination now. I need all of you functional. She left, her footsteps silent on the metal floor. Taeho helped Minho stand. The engineer was shaking. Captain, we can't let her find other Veil Walkers. If there are more like her, I know. So what do we do? Taeho looked at his crew. At Sora with her useless weapon. At Jiwon arriving with her medical kit. At Minho still recovering from having his mind invaded. They were just normal people. Merchants and engineers and doctors. Not warriors, not heroes. But they were all he had. We get ready, Taeho said. Jiwon, keep working on finding a weakness. Sora, inventory every weapon we have, even the improvised ones. Minho, when you feel better, I need you to think about how we could disable the ship if necessary. Disable our own ship? If we have to crash land on that dead world to stop her from leaving, that's what we'll do. Taeho looked at each of them. She thinks we're interesting. Let's show her just how interesting humans can be when we're backed into a corner. Sora holstered her weapon. You're planning to fight her. I'm planning to stop her. However we can. She'll know what we're planning. She can read our minds. Maybe, but she's also curious. And curiosity can be a weakness too. Taeho headed for the door. Get to work. And try not to think too loudly. He left them there, heading back to the bridge. He needed to study those coordinates more carefully. To understand where Ariel was really taking them. Because one way or another, this journey was going to end on that dead world. And Deho was determined that when it did, Ariel would not be leaving, even if it cost him everything. The journey to the dead world took 6 more days. 6 days that felt like 6 years. The ship itself seemed to be changing. Shadows fell in places where light should reach. Corridors felt longer than they were. Sometimes crew members would turn a corner and find themselves somewhere else entirely, as if the ship's layout had rearranged itself. "It's her," Jiwan said during one of their secret meetings. They had taken to gathering in the cargo hold's cold storage unit, hoping the thick insulation might hide their thoughts. "She's affecting our perceptions, making us see things that aren't there, or not see things that are," Minho added. He had recovered from his experience, but he was different now. Quieter, more haunted. "When she was in my head, I felt something. Like she left a piece of herself behind. A thread connecting us. Can you feel what she's thinking?" Deho asked. "No, but I can feel when she's paying attention to me. It's like cold water on the back of my neck." Sora had news too. "I've been reviewing the security footage, checking to see if we missed anything." She pulled up a recording on her tablet. "Watch this. 3 days ago in the common area. The video showed Ariel sitting alone drinking tea. Normal enough, but then her form flickered. For just one frame she looked different. Taller, thinner. Her skin was darker, almost black, and her eyes glowed like stars. Then she was normal again. What was that?" Deho asked. "Her real form maybe, or one of them." Sora scrolled through more footage. "It happens occasionally. Like she forgets to maintain the illusion for a split second. So she's not even really humanoid?" "I don't think she's really anything. I think she's whatever she wants to be." G1 had been working on the limiter, trying to understand how it functioned. She had taken it apart carefully, studying each component. "It's incredibly advanced," she said, showing them the pieces. "These circuits use principles I don't understand. And this metal, it's not in our database. But I figured out the basic principle. It creates a field that disrupts the energy signatures in her body. Like static jamming a radio signal. Can we weaponize it?" Sora asked. "Build something that broadcasts the same disruption?" "Maybe, but we'd need a massive power source. More than the ship has." Jiwan looked frustrated. "And even if we could build it, we'd have to get close enough to use it. She'd see us coming, unless we could hide it somehow. Make her think we're not a threat." Deho stared at the limiter pieces. "She said they only work if the Veil Walker accepts them. What does that mean exactly?" "I think it's psychological," Jiwan said. "The limiter doesn't just suppress their power. It requires their consent. Their will. Without that, it's just jewelry. So we can't force it on her. Not unless we could somehow convince her to accept it again. And given what she's told us about her plans, I don't think that's likely." The nightmares got worse. Each member of the crew woke up screaming at least once. The dreams were vivid and personal, targeting their deepest fears. Deho dreamed of failing his crew, of watching them die one by one while he stood frozen, unable to help. He dreamed of his family on Earth, learning that he had died alone in space, a failure. When he woke, Ariel was sitting in his cabin, in the chair by his desk. "That was interesting," she said. "Your subconscious is very organized. Lots of guilt, lots of responsibility. You feel everything so deeply." Deho's heart raced. "Get out of my room. I'm not really here. Not physically. This is a projection. I'm still in my cabin." She leaned forward. "I've been exploring your memories, Captain. You've lived an interesting life. That time you saved those colonists from the reactor meltdown. The way you talked down that armed smuggler without firing a shot. You're a good person. It's rare. Stop looking through my mind. I can't help it anymore. The barriers between us are thinning. It happens when I'm around people for too long. Their thoughts start to bleed into mine and mine into theirs." She smiled sadly. "It's one reason the limiters were created. Without them, we can't help but invade others. It's our nature. That's not an excuse, I know. I'm not making excuses. I'm just explaining." She stood. 2 more days, Captain. Then we'll reach the dead world and you'll understand what I'm looking for. Maybe then you'll understand me too." She faded away like smoke. Deho didn't sleep again that night. On the 5th day, Ariel called them all to the common area. When they arrived, they found her standing in front of the large view screen which showed the star charts. "I want to tell you a story," she said, "about my people, about what we were and what we became." She waved her hand and images appeared on the screen, ancient cities that seemed to grow from crystal. Ships that moved through space like living things, beings that looked like Ariel but also different, each one unique. We were old when your world was still forming. We had explored the galaxy and found it empty of equals, so we filled it with servants and subjects. We created civilizations, guided them, controlled them. We thought we were benevolent. We thought we were helping. The images changed, showed worlds in ruins, populations on their knees, eyes empty of thought. But we were feeding on them, slowly draining them. We didn't mean to at first. It was just our nature to take, to consume. We couldn't help it. Her voice was hollow. By the time we realized what we were doing, we had destroyed hundreds of species. Entire civilizations reduced to empty shells. So you made the limiters, Jiwan said quietly. Yes, some of us did. The ones who felt guilt, who wanted to be better. They developed the technology and chose to wear it. To limit themselves. To live as equals with the species we had harmed. Ariel turned to face them, but others refused. They said we shouldn't apologize for being what we were. That predators don't apologize to prey. And you were one of them, Diho said. I was. I rejected the limiter. I joined the faction that wanted to keep the old ways. She looked at her hands. We fought a war. Not with weapons, but with minds, with will. We tore each other apart across 1,000 worlds. In the end, the limiters won. Those of us who refused were hunted down and contained. The rest of my people went into hiding, wearing their limiters, living quiet lives among the species they had once ruled. Why are you telling us this? Sora asked. Because I want you to understand. I'm not evil. I'm not good. I'm just what I am. A predator pretending to be prey doesn't become prey. It just becomes a hungry predator. She pointed to the star chart. The place we're going, it was a containment facility. One of many. They put us there. The refusers, the ones who wouldn't accept limitation. They locked us away and hoped we'd eventually die. But you escaped, Minho said. Someone let me out. I don't know who. I woke up one day and the doors were open. My limiter was still on, so I couldn't have broken out myself. She smiled. I wandered for a while, trying to decide what to do. Part of me wanted to go back to sleep, to accept the limiter. But another part remembered what it felt like to be truly free, to use all my power without holding back. So you removed the limiter. Yes, and immediately got caught by the authorities. They were transporting me to a more secure facility when Captain Deho found me and decided to be a hero. She looked at Deho with something that might have been affection. You ruined everything. And saved me, both at the same time. What's at the dead world? Deho demanded. What are you really looking for? Information. The facility had records. Locations of other containment sites. Places where others like me might still be sleeping. Her eyes gleamed. If I can free enough of them, we can rebuild. Become what we were meant to be. Rulers of the galaxy. Yes. And humans? Ariel was quiet for a long moment. That's what I've been trying to decide. You're not like the other species we've encountered. You're stubborn, creative. You refuse to give up even when you should. It's admirable and frustrating. She looked at each of them. If my people return, humans will be a problem, but maybe a problem worth having. You mean you might not exterminate us? Sora's voice was cold. I mean, I might find you useful, which in the grand scheme of things is the best you can hope for. She left them then, returning to her cabin. The crew stood in silence, processing what they had just learned. She's telling us her plan, Jiwan said. She's not even hiding it. Because she doesn't think we can stop her, Deho said. She's that confident. Can we stop her? Minho asked. Deho looked at the star chart, at the coordinates of the dead world growing closer every hour. We have to try. Because if she frees other Veilwalkers, if they rebuild their civilization, he didn't finish. He didn't need to. They all knew what would happen. Humanity would become what those ancient civilizations had been. Servants at best, food at worst, empty shells drained of everything that made them human. 2 more days, Sora said. We have 2 more days to figure out how to stop an ancient predator with godlike powers. Then we better get to work, Deho said. The dead world appeared on their sensors like a gray marble hanging in space. No atmosphere, no water, no life. Just barren rock and the massive ruins that covered its surface like scars. Deho piloted the bright horizon into orbit, his hands steady despite the fear churning in his gut. Below them, the ruins stretched for hundreds of kilometers. Massive structures that might have been buildings or machines or something between. They were carved from a black material that seemed to absorb light. That's bigger than any city on Earth, Minho whispered. Ariel stood behind them on the bridge, staring at the planet with hungry eyes. Yes, the Veil Walkers built on a scale that matched their ambitions. That facility could house 10,000 of us comfortably. How many were actually kept there? Jiwan asked. I don't know. Hundreds? Thousands? We'll find out soon enough. We're going down there? Zora's hand rested on her weapon. You are, Ariel said. I need your help to access the facility. The security systems were designed to respond to multiple species, to prevent any one of us from entering alone. Very clever, really. Deho turned to face her. Why would we help you? Because if you don't, I'll take control of your minds and make you help me anyway. And I'd rather not do that. It's messy and causes permanent damage. She smiled. Also, I think you're curious. You want to see what's down there. Humans are always curious, she was right, and Deho hated that. Part of him did want to see, wanted to understand. Even if it killed him. We'll need suits, he said. There's no atmosphere. Already prepared, Minho said quietly. He had learned not to argue anymore. They landed the ship near the largest structure, a massive tower that rose like a needle from the dead ground. Up close, the black material looked organic, with veins and patterns that suggested something grown rather than built. The landing team consisted of Deho, Sora, Minho, and Ariel. Jiwan stayed on the ship to monitor and provide support. They wore environmental suits with limited air supplies. Ariel wore nothing special. She didn't need to breathe. The entrance to the facility was a perfect circle in the tower's base. As they approached, symbols lit up on the surface, glowing with cold blue light. Ariel read them and laughed. Warning, dangerous entities contained. Enter at own risk. They always had a sense of humor. She placed her hand on the entrance. Nothing happened. She tried pushing with her power, and Deho could feel it even through his suit, like pressure building in his ears. Still nothing. This is where you help, Ariel said. The door needs multiple biological signatures to open. Different species. Place your hands on it. Deho, Sora, and Minho exchanged glances. This was the moment. They could refuse, force a confrontation here and now. But they were in environment suits with limited air, and Ariel was stronger than all of them combined. They placed their hands on the entrance. Heat flowed through their gloves. The symbols flashed brighter, and the door melted away like water, revealing darkness beyond. Thank you, Ariel said and stepped inside. They followed, their suit lights cutting through the dark. The corridor beyond was massive, ceiling lost in shadows above. The walls were covered in more symbols, thousands of them glowing faintly. These are names, Ariel said, running her fingers along the wall. The names of everyone imprisoned here. Look, there's mine. She pointed to a cluster of symbols that meant nothing to human eyes. They walked deeper into the facility. Side corridors branched off in every direction, leading to rooms filled with strange equipment. Massive chambers with devices that might have been beds or prisons or both. Control rooms with consoles that still glowed with power after 10,000 years. The facility is still active, Minho said, checking his scanner. It's drawing power from somewhere. Probably the planet's core. Where are the prisoners? Zora asked, her voice tight. That's what I'm trying to find out. Ariel moved with purpose now, following some instinct or memory. She led them to the center of the tower, to a chamber so large that their lights couldn't reach the far walls. In the center stood a pillar of light, solid and unwavering. Around it, thousands of smaller lights floated in precise patterns. Each light was a different color. Each one pulsed with its own rhythm. What are those? Deho asked. Them, Ariel said softly. The other prisoners, they're in stasis, suspended between moments. Not dead, not alive, just waiting. She approached the pillar slowly, reverently. When she touched it, the entire chamber responded. Lights flickered. The pillar pulsed, and a voice spoke. Ancient and tired. Identity confirmed. Ariel of the Veil Walkers designated refuser. Container violation detected. How have you returned? I was released, Ariel said. Someone opened my container. Impossible. All containers are sealed with primary protocols. Only consensus of the sleeping council could authorize release. Then someone on the council woke up. Or someone found a way to hack your systems. The voice was silent for a moment. Query purpose of return? I want to free the others. All of them. We deserve a second chance, negative. Refusers were contained for the safety of the galaxy. They cannot be released. Can't or won't. Cannot. Release requires consensus. Consensus is impossible. The council has not convened for 8,000 cycles. Ariel's frustration was visible even through her calm exterior. Then I'll find another way. She pressed her hand against the pillar harder and power flowed from her into it. The chamber shook. Alarms began wailing. The floating lights scattered like frightened birds. "Warning," the voice said. "Unauthorized access detected. Defense protocols activating." The walls opened. From hidden passages came machines, sleek and deadly, built for one purpose. They moved toward Ariel with terrible speed. "Run," Deho shouted. They ran, but Ariel stood her ground. The machines attacked with weapons that bent space and time. Ariel fought back with pure force of will, destroying them one by one. But more kept coming. Deho and his crew reached the corridor. Sora turned back. "We have to help her." "Help her do what?" Deho grabbed Sora's arm. "Free ancient monsters?" "No, this is our chance. Chance to do what?" "To make sure she can't free the others." Understanding dawned on Minho's face. "The power source. If we could shut it down, the stasis would fail," Deho finished. "And so would the entire facility, including the entrance we came through. We'd be trapped." "But she'd be trapped too," Sora said, "with thousands of defense machines and no way to free the other Veilwalkers." They looked at each other. It was a suicide mission, but it might be the only way to stop Ariel's plan. "Jiwan," Deho spoke into his communicator. "Are you reading this?" "Yes, Captain." "The facility's power signature is massive. If you could reach the core and destabilize it, we'd destroy the facility and everything in it. Including us, yes." Jiwan's voice was steady. "But you'd also save everyone else. Every species in the galaxy." Deho thought about Earth, about the colonies spreading across the stars, about humanity's future that could end before it really began if Ariel succeeded. "Minho, can you find the power core?" Minho checked his scanner. "Yes, it's deep, but I can map a route." "Then let's move. Before she finishes with those machines." They ran through the facility's corridors following Minho's directions. Behind them they could hear the sounds of battle. Explosions, the screech of tearing metal. Ariel's voice raised in anger or pain. The power core was buried at the facility's lowest level. They descended through elevator shafts and maintenance tunnels, their air supplies running lower with each minute. Finally, they reached it. A massive sphere of contained energy, pulsing with power that made their suits' instruments scream warnings. Minho studied the controls, most of which were in languages no human had ever seen. "I think I can destabilize it," he said. "But it'll take time. And once I start, there's no stopping it." "How long?" Deho asked. "Maybe 10 minutes until critical failure. Then the whole facility goes." "Do it!" Minho began working, his fingers flying over the alien controls. Sora stood guard, weapon ready, though they all knew it would be useless if Ariel found them. Deho activated his communicator. "Jiwan, we're doing it. You need to leave. Get the ship as far from this world as possible. Captain, I can't just abandon you. That's an order. Tell Earth what happened here. Tell them about the Veilwalkers. Make sure they're ready in case more wake up." "Captain," Jiwan's voice broke. "It's okay. We made our choice. Now make yours." He ended the transmission before she could argue. Minho stepped back from the controls. "It's done. The containment field is breaking down. We have maybe 8 minutes." The facility shook. Alarms wailed louder. The lights flickered and died, leaving them in the glow of their suit lights and the pulsing sphere. "Will it be enough?" Sora asked. "Will destroying this place stop them all?" "The others are in stasis," Deho said. "If the power fails, they'll die, or sleep forever. Either way, they won't threaten anyone. And Ariel, she's powerful, but she's still physical. If we can trap her in a collapsing building, even she can't survive." The floor shook violently. Cracks appeared in the walls. The power sphere's pulses became erratic. "We should get to higher ground," Minho said. "Being at the bottom when this place collapses isn't ideal." They started climbing back up, but the facility was dying around them. Corridors collapsed. Entire sections fell away into darkness. They helped each other over obstacles, their air running critically low. They were halfway up when Ariel found them. She appeared at the end of the corridor and she looked different. The facility was dying faster than Minho had predicted. The power core's collapse sent shockwaves through the entire structure. Ancient supports that had stood for 10,000 years cracked and crumbled. The ceiling above them began to fall in massive chunks of black material. "We need to move," Sora shouted, pulling Minho away from a collapsing support beam. But Deho stood still, facing Ariel. The Veil Walker had returned to her humanoid form, though it flickered like a bad signal. She looked tired, more tired than any being had the right to look. "You're not running," Ariel said. "Why?" "We're out of air anyway," Deho said. His suit's warning system was screaming. 3 minutes of oxygen left. We were always going to die here. That was the plan. Then why are you smiling? Deho hadn't realized he was. Because we won. We stopped you. That's worth dying for. Ariel tilted her head, studying him with those strange shifting eyes. No, you didn't win. You just chose the manner of your death. There's a difference. She moved suddenly, impossibly fast. Her hands touched Deho's chest, Sora's shoulder, Minho's back. Power flowed through them like electricity. Not painful, but overwhelming. All-consuming. The world went white. When Deho's vision cleared, they were standing outside the facility. The black tower loomed behind them, already beginning to collapse in on itself. Their ship, the Bright Horizon, sat where they had left it. "What did you do?" Deho demanded, checking his suit. His air supply showed 30 minutes remaining. Impossible. It had been at 3 minutes. "I saved you," Ariel said. She looked even weaker now, her form barely solid. "I pulled you out. Rewrote your position in space. It cost me a lot of power." "Why?" Sora had her weapon out, pointed at Ariel. "Why would you save us?" "Because I wanted to understand something. And now I do." Ariel sat down on the dead ground, looking small and tired. "You could have left me in there. Could have run while I was fighting the machines. But instead you destroyed the facility, knowing it would trap you, knowing you would die. We couldn't let you free the others," Deho said. "I know. And that's what fascinates me. You chose death over letting something terrible happen, even though you'd never personally see the consequences." She looked at her hands. "The old civilizations we ruled, they weren't like that. When we came to their worlds, they surrendered. They chose slavery over death. They chose survival over principle. Is that why you ruled them?" Minho asked. "Because they wouldn't fight back?" "Maybe. We told ourselves they were lesser beings, that we had the right to rule because we were stronger. But maybe the truth was simpler. Maybe we ruled them because they let us." The facility behind them groaned and collapsed further. Huge sections fell into the dead ground, sending up clouds of gray dust. "I'm dying," Ariel said calmly. "Using that much power in my weakened state, it tore something. I can feel it. I have maybe an hour before I fade." "Good," Sora said, though her voice lacked conviction. "Yes, good. I deserve it, probably." Ariel looked up at the stars visible in the airless sky. "But before I go, I want to give you something. Information, a gift for showing me what I've been missing all these millennia." She pulled something from her pocket. The limiter, the metal collar Deho had removed on his ship. She held it out to him. "This is keyed to my biometric signature. It won't work on any other Veil Walker. But the information encoded in it, the locations of other containment facilities, the protocols for the limiters, all of it. Take it, study it. If more of my people wake up, you'll need to know how to stop them." Deho took the collar carefully. It was warm in his gloved hands. "You're just giving us this?" "Why not? My plan failed. But your species will continue. You'll spread across the galaxy. Eventually, you'll encounter other Veil Walkers. Some might still wear limiters, living peacefully. Others might be like I was, refusing to be bound." She smiled sadly. "When you find them, I want you to do what you did today. Fight, resist, choose death over surrender. Because that's what makes you dangerous. Not weapons, not technology, but the absolute refusal to accept defeat." The facility collapsed completely, falling into itself with a sound like thunder. The ground shook and cracks appeared in the dead soil around them. "We need to leave," Minho said. "The whole area is becoming unstable." "Go," Ariel said. "Get to your ship." "Leave this place. What about you?" Deho asked. "I'll stay here. With my people." "It seems fitting." She looked at the ruins. They dreamed of returning to glory, of ruling again. But maybe some dreams should stay buried. Deho hesitated. Despite everything, despite what Ariel was and what she had done, leaving her to die felt wrong. "Come with us. Wear the limiter again. You could live peacefully." Ariel laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "No, I couldn't. That's what I learned from you. The limiter only works if I truly want to be limited. If I accept in my heart that I should be restrained. And I don't. I'm too old. Too set in my ways. I would just remove it again eventually and hurt more people. You saved us. That means something. It means I was curious, and curiosity isn't the same as morality. She waved them away. Go, please, I don't want to spend my last moments arguing with stubborn humans. Sora grabbed Deho's arm. Captain, she's right. We need to leave now. They started toward the ship. Deho looked back once and saw Ariel sitting alone on the dead world, staring at the collapsed facility. She looked small, alone, ancient, human. They boarded the bright horizon and found Jiwan on the bridge, tears streaming down her face. You're alive. I saw the facility collapse and I thought, we're okay, Deho said. Ariel saved us. What? I'll explain later. Right now we need to leave orbit. The ship lifted off, engines straining. Below them, the ground continued to crack and collapse. They watched on the view screen as the entire facility site fell into a massive crater, swallowing everything. Is she still down there? Jiwan asked. Yes, Deho said quietly. They watched until the crater stopped growing, until the dust settled, until there was nothing left but gray rock and silence. Setting course for human space, Minho said from the navigation station. His voice was hoarse. It'll take us 3 weeks. Good. That'll give us time to process what happened. Deho held up the limiter. And to study this. The journey back was quiet. Each crew member dealt with their experience in their own way. Sora spent hours in the training room, working through her fear with physical exercise. Minho buried himself in work, taking apart and analyzing every component of the limiter. Jiwan wrote detailed reports of everything that had happened, documenting it all for the authorities. Daiho spent his time writing too, but not reports. He wrote a message. To Earth, to the colonies, to anyone who would listen. We are not alone in the galaxy, he wrote, and not all the species we meet will be friendly. Some will be stronger than us, faster, more advanced. They will see us as resources or obstacles or prey. When that happens, we cannot surrender. We cannot give up. Because the moment we accept defeat, the moment we choose survival over principle, we become what they think we are. Lesser beings, victims, food. Humanity's strength is not in our weapons or our ships. It's in our stubborn refusal to accept fate. It's in our willingness to die for people we'll never meet, for futures we'll never see. That's what makes us dangerous. That's what makes us worth fearing. Remember that. When the strong come to make you kneel, stand up. When they offer you slavery in exchange for survival, fight back. When they tell you that resistance is futile, prove them wrong. Because we're human, and we don't give up. Ever. 3 weeks later, they arrived at the nearest human station. Daiho immediately contacted the authorities and requested a meeting with the Colonial Defense Council. He brought the limiter, Jiwan's reports, and his own testimony. The council listened in stunned silence. When Daiho finished, the head counselor, an old woman named Yunji, leaned forward. You destroyed an ancient alien facility and killed one of these Veil Walkers? She died, yes. But we didn't kill her. She saved us and chose to stay behind. Why would she do that? I think she was tired. Tired of being what she was. And maybe at the end she wanted to do one good thing before she disappeared. Yunji studied the limiter that lay on the table between them. And you believe there are more of these creatures? The limiter's data suggests dozens of containment facilities. Maybe hundreds, all scattered across the galaxy. Then we need to find them, secure them, or leave them alone, Deho said. The facilities are designed to last forever. As long as they have power, the Veil Walkers inside will sleep. The danger comes from tampering with them, like you did, like I did, Deho admitted. I thought I was saving someone. Instead, I almost unleashed something that could have destroyed us all. Yunji stood and walked to the window overlooking the station. You made a mistake, but you also fixed it. At great personal risk. That takes courage. It takes stupidity. Courage would have been leaving her alone in the first place. Maybe. But I'm glad you're the kind of person who tries to help even when it's dangerous. We need more people like you. She turned back to face him. The council will study this information. We'll send warnings to all colonies and allied species. And we'll create protocols for dealing with ancient facilities, assuming we survive long enough to use them.